the cat's out the bag with Mikel Arteta. And if I was an Arsenal fan, and I was talking to my friend Mike about this morning, if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be hoping that this result has come early enough in the season to shake Arteta, because it is now quite a loud part of the football chat in this country that Mikel Arteta has the handbrake on, and he is ultimately too defensive in the biggest moments when you consider the variety of attacking talent he's got. And this defensive mindset is going to cost him future league titles, and has already cost him potentially league titles. And that has gone from being like a fringe discourse to now it's quite firmly part of the established conversation that Mikel Arteta won't win a league title because he is too defensive. And I'm sorry to go back to this, but opening weekend of the season, you've got Martin Odegaard when they're 1-0 up at Old Trafford with 5 minutes to go. He's trying to play for the corner flag. That was a red flag for me. I think that the starting lineup at Anfield, right? You spent 70 million quid on Eberechi Eze, who I think he's one of the most underrated players in the Premier League. I think he's absolutely fantastic footballer. When you spent 70 million on him, forget the price tag, just the quality of the footballer. When you spend that money favouring Mourinho in a defensive central midfield instead of Eze, playing Eze as the number 10, I think is extremely unusual. I think Arteta came for 0-0 and he got a 1-0 defeat. That game was 0-0. It was a 0-0 game, Ollie. But Dominic Szoboszlai does something crazy, you lose it 1-0, and then we extrapolate these narratives out of it that Arsenal are this incredibly defensive side. And I do think that Mikel Arteta is in real danger now of having a group of footballers that he's so afraid of losing that he's ultimately not going to win a league title. And sometimes it's not even the personnel. The personnel's a big part of it because I think the team selection was wrong. But the other part of it is, what's he saying to the players? Like, why doesn't he just go into the dressing room just before kickoff and say, we can lose this football match? Like, if we lose 3-1 at Anfield, it's okay. There's still 35 games of the season left. Eze, you're starting. We're going to go and we're going to take this Liverpool side on. And I don't know, man. I think that something might just have clicked. And for me now, the issue is, how stubborn is Mikel Arteta? Is he prepared to maybe change tact a little bit? 2 or 3% we're talking here or there in the biggest games. Or is he so stubborn that he believes that he can 1-0 his way and set piece his way to a Premier League title?
The trouble is as well in doing that is if it isn't successful, you win no favours from the neutral or anybody else. I mean, that's one of the things lobbied at Jose Mourinho, like some of the worst title victories in Premier League history, but it was effective. So at least you had the silverware at the end of the year, so you can have the press conference 10 years later at Manchester United going, big deal, I've got the 3 titles. Like that's the joy of that man, that he was able to do it so successfully. If Mikel Arteta is going to try and play defensive football, you have to be successful. Burnley last year would have been lambasted had they not got promoted, for sure. And I admired the way they did it because, again, if you're successful with it and you get what you need to get done, then it's a great thing. What Arteta needs, though, is to win a Premier League title. Like, Arsenal are a consistent Champions League side now. They're considered a top 4 kind of nailed on, and they're now considered a side that has to be able to go and compete and win a title. That does require an element of change if what you've been doing for the last few years hasn't got you there. And I completely agree. I just had a quick check. Ez has been at the club now for over a week. Like, this isn't one of these ones where he was signed yesterday. We don't want to chuck him in straight away. And to be honest, even like up and down the country in every single league in the EFL and in the Premier League, you see players getting bought 2 days ago and they get chucked on anyway. Like, first game, maybe give them a start, see what happens, or we'll throw you in after 60 minutes, sure. And as it came on off the bench, but like, you've paid 70 million to buy an impact player. You're not paying that sort of money to buy an if, buts, or maybe. You've got somebody who I would imagine for that kind of money, and Christ, you would hope for that sort of money, is meant to be starting every game possible if you've decided that that's what you need to do. And it's not just, screw you, Tottenham, we'll mug you over a bit and get the guy that you really wanted as well, which I don't think actually comes into it, although it's a nice storyline. But yeah, so this is a guy that you spend 70 million on this player to play in this game, in games like this at Anfield, to be that X factor, to go and attack and take on a Liverpool side that are maybe not at their best at the start of this season yet, but that are still able to consistently grind out victories. And at the end of the day, Arne Slot, he's got money in the bank because he's got a Premier League title already in his back pocket. So what he does this year, it affects and it matters, but he's got the safety of silverware. You don't really have that as Mikel Arteta with Arsenal. What you have instead is this grumbling discord that it's been a long time now, and we're kind of getting into that latter Wenger stage of nothing's really changing, and the modus operandi isn't quite taking us to the next level, and we need something else. And I think you're right. This sort of result, actually, so early in the season, is a huge, huge problem for Arteta in the manner you go. You've had one shot on target at Anfield. This is meant to be a team that you are trying to take to task and dethrone as the best side in English football. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. You need to create chances and be far more attacking. A 0-0 draw at Anfield isn't necessarily... Sure, if you win the title at the end of the year, you might look back and say, oh, maybe that's a great result. But right now, that doesn't feel like a great result for Arsenal, particularly with the amount of frustration there's been over Gyökeres being the star centre-forward that they've signed. It hasn't exactly been an enthusiastic transfer window, I think, for a lot of Arsenal
also,
fans.
Ollie, you make a good point when you say they've got to take the title off Liverpool. As in, you've got to go to Anfield and try and win, because Liverpool are the champions, right? And I think that Gary Neville made a great point that this is a title-winning squad without a title. And if you go off that thesis, then the thing that's holding them back is the manager. And that won't be set in stone until they don't actually win the title this year. Maybe they do, and all of a sudden we rip up these narratives and start again, right? But the winners write history. And that's why Liverpool, who are probably equally as defensive as Arsenal at the weekend, but Dominic Szoboszlai puts a ridiculous free kick in the top corner, and then the winners just write history. So they can say, well, we scored a goal, and you didn't. You came for the 0-0. So I think it's a big old 8 or 9 months for Mikel Arteta, and it'll be very interesting to see during the international break, when he's got just that little bit more time to have a think, if he does nudge his philosophy just a little bit more this way and that. As you say, you buy Eberechi Eze for these kind of games. Same with Florian Wirtz. Hasn't actually had the best start to his Liverpool career, you'd say, right? But you spent, albeit way more than 70 million, you spent up to 116 million on him. But I'm pleased that Arne Slot did start him, because you buy those footballers for these games. And whether it works or not, you're making that statement that you buy an attacking footballers to win these games. So, yeah, I don't know. I think if we just go on to Liverpool very briefly,